Thanks for having me. The agenda is just, I'm going to show my app. Actually, I generated an app, but first I'm going to introduce myself. Then we demo the app, and then I gladly share all the code. And my wife had a problem, like she likes to rename her files, and so I wrote an app to rename PDF files. That's how it all started. I'm mostly doing React. I did a lot of Ruby on Rails. I'm from Switzerland, came over 20 years ago. I have 3 children made in USA, and I like to code. I've been working on for many months. And I installed the app on my wife's computer and said, now you can scan. And she's there like, yeah, but I scan on my PC with no further ado. So basically all it does is you can have file names, so when you scan them, they're often called scan and you have a date, but it's a date when you scanned it. What it does with Apple Intelligence, it reads the files, try to find the dates, the type of document, the company, and then it just renames it. It just goes through them one by one and names them. So based on whatever the document was, this is an Amazon subscription, so it recognizes the dates, the price, and then just renames your PDF. So again, that's what I was doing manually. It does all that. I didn't know there was a setting view up front, and then as you watch the videos of WWDC, I learned all the new things there, and I'm like, crap, no, I could have refactored it. But when I refactor it, I just ask the prompt. I say, use a setting view now. You have the light mode, the dark modes, system appearance. You can decide how you want to rename your files, and you can reorder the file renaming. Yeah, that's it. That was a demo. This is more like a code review. And you won't hurt my feelings. When you work with AI, you care less about the code than when you craft it. So if you are going to show code, if you're there like, that's dumb, that's wrong, you can say it that way. You won't hurt my feelings. If there's stuff you don't like on the I would actually love to hear it.
And is this on the App Store?
Yeah, it's on the App Store now. And that was a whole process.
This solves an active problem.
Dang, you might be customer number 2. Yeah, it's not very expensive. I'm going to make it up in volume. It's free. I asked AI to write a help system. It used all the help elements that there's an SDK for that. I wrote the prompt, it just generated it, which was, I pointed it to the HTML add-on website. So I can show a lot of the code based on what's interesting. We'll go through all the one I use. But the first time I installed it on the Mac of my wife, it wasn't working, and I'm there like, why is nothing happening? And with a foundation model, you can check the model availability. That tells you whether you can run a foundation model, whether it's disabled, whether it's just not ready because they're downloading it. And that's fun to see in action. I had to point to the docs and tell AI, make this work. And then when you turn it off, I just say, oh, and now it's preparing the model, and there's the different modes. I show this different screen, and all it does, you can get the model, and then you can ask the availability. And that's a nice touch. This is the meat of how the foundation model works. Can you see that? Or? Yeah? All right. This, with a generable, you tell it what you want to ask it, and then you define basically the shape of what you want back, and that informs the model of what to do. So that's a bulk of the intelligence. Then down the line, I generate an additional prompt where I say, you are an AI assistant specialized in extracting information from documents. And then I give it the text of the PDF where, when I say I feel like an imposter, where the app that was generated reads a PDF, takes the images, gets the text out of the PDF. And that's not with a foundation model. Just to get the text is what Apple has. When you are in the preview, you can select text. I think that's what they provide, and that works really well to get text out. I don't send the whole PDF. I send a few first pages, few last pages, which is often where you find information. Send it to the thing, and poof, it comes out with a structured JSON. Temperature, in all the things you generate, there's a notion of temperature, which is how creative it can be. When you don't set it, it just tells you stuff. I found this nice novel. That's not my document. So anyhow, knowing about temperature, you can play with it.
It's like how flavored is the AI.
Yeah, how nutsy it is, like. So yeah, and if you remove everything else, this is what worked. And I created that first version, which I tossed, but I took the description of the model, the prompt, and the logic to extract from the PDF from it. And like in an hour, I had the start of this version and then I spent a few months. The PDF document comes from PDFKit, so you just get the document, and then you get all the pages from the document, and then I get a...
Okay, so you generate a thumbnail.
Yes, which I don't know if it's the smartest thing to do. Again, when you say you, on this whole process, I was more like a manager or PO telling my coder, some day, had good days, like they're like awesome, and some days I'm there like, you're just driving me nuts. So it's a different relationship. It was interesting.
So like on your, that receipt that you have, that league pass receipt, is that something that you printed as a PDF, like from a browser? I was curious about it. How do you deal with, so PDF files are, if you've ever looked at like a PDF file text document, there's all kinds of commands in this. And so basically by getting the thumbnail is how you get around going through and looking through the file and figuring out what's a PostScript command and what's a... Yeah, he doesn't parse the PDF.
So PDFKit does it, but I tested it with receipt I took on photo, I scanned, and I have 20 years of scan history. I went to the old scanners, but they were still good enough, and he recognized some crummy stuff. So when you scan an email, you can expect that it's printed, it's all nice, and you can get text, but the old images and foundation model, like I had a matrix of all the different models I used. Foundation model is not as good as many of the others, where it's not as subtle. Some of the others, they find the type of document, the type of contract, they're more consistent with the address. Foundation model, it's free, it's good. And you can build apps where nobody has to pay something. And they're going to improve it. There were a few paid models that were really worse. Foundation model is good to categorize things. So yeah, you get a PDF. I have no idea how he'd read it. That's part of PDFKit. You see, it can also display it. Then I get the text, and then that text later on I pass to that prompt I showed you with the rebel, and then you get just JSON back. And please interrupt, or if you are curious about anything else, we don't need to follow the flow.
So in theory, because there are image PDFs and essentially text or markup PDFs, so in theory you could like analyze it, or you could check the file format and say, if this is an image PDF, send it off to the vision toolkit, or if it's searchable, if it's already done OCR, like PDFs have OCR, you can skip all the vision framework stuff.
Yeah.
Like the electronic receipts, they're probably already, they're not rendered as images. But
you would also be able to easily just take PNG, JPEG,
Yeah.
not worry about them all being PDF, and like still be able to scan stuff.
yeah, I'm just saying there are two types of
Yeah.
PDFs, and they're just treating everything. So, but yeah, so it'd be really flexible. It's cool.
If it's not an image. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I haven't done, there's TIFFs, there's JPEGs. People can decide to scan in different modes. I'm there like, okay, I'm going to send to the App Store, works for me. And if people complain, I'm going to see what's important.
You got all the nuts and bolts there to give any image.
Yeah, I think JPEG and all the different formats, because that's all the other scanning software for people who do scans. You can pick and choose.
Taking a photo with your phone and send it to this app too and do the same thing.
So the first time I run foundation model, I'm there like, what's happening? Because I'm used to calling the server that calls the server that comes back in less than a second. And okay, there must be a bug, and then I try again, and then I added times to measure. And foundation model, and I work on a Mac Mini M4 Pro, and it was slow. And it's fast enough, but it's slow like the other one. Before, when you go through the network, it goes ding, ding. This one you saw like, all right, turning page 1, turning page 2. So the whole processing, instead of going super parallel, I'm there like, I don't think it already used multiple cores. I'm there like, I didn't try to say, let's do chunks of pages in parallel of things. So it's just serial, sequential.
So your minimum deployment target would be iOS 26, right?
Yeah. And the first release, I think, was Intel and ARM, but Foundation don't work on Intel, so I just target. And when you go on the store and you click download, it says you cannot. They have a message saying it doesn't work for. Yes.
Which, look at this code right here, and I can see that the AI gave you older SwiftUI and now using the observable macro, which is the modern way of doing physical objects.
It gave me a lot, and when you don't know what to ask, first I saw stuff, I'm there like, that is really super old. You can have also async await. He was doing different things. And then I did a Swift 6, I think, and then you have strict concurrency. And then I did a pass where I cleaned up a lot of those.
Yeah, 'cause I saw that in another bit of code.
Yeah.
Semaphore stuff, which is old legacy stuff.
And that screws the testing sometimes, where one waits on the other one.
Yeah.
So
I'm not surprised because I see that a lot with my AI conversations that they come up with code, but it may not be the pattern that is like, this is the new way to do it. This is just stuff that it just picked up somewhere and gave it to you, right?
yeah. One thing you want to do is create an agent file where you tell it when you see it short on something, you say, use these new approaches. I usually include it in my prompts. I don't know if no, in that one I don't have an agent file. Yeah, semaphore, that was one of my questions. What's that stuff? I know what a semaphore is on old VMS systems and things like that, but and then now they say you put most of the stuff on main actor and the rest you don't have to worry, it does it for you. So that's something I watch 3 YouTube videos and every time I'm there like, shit, it's hard to be an iOS or a Mac developer.
Interesting question. Did you notice like why lockups and stuff and frozen screens and everything? Because main actor means it runs on the main
Yeah.
thread. So
Yeah,
a lot of this stuff. Did you notice like issues where you have to be like, oh, this is freezing the app?
No.
What's your agent that you're using, your AI agent?
In this one,
Yeah, using Claude or
I use mostly Claude Sonnet 4.5. They have a new model that's pretty good. It's faster. Cursor is really great. That's why I did a lot of the work. VS Code, Xcode. On my Mac, I added the different models. Tried it a few times, and I'm done. Yeah, they're not there yet.
I'm curious, what level of complexity were you prompting at? Were you doing it at the class level, or like more granular, or were you just it'll be an app?
Yes, mostly very high level. When you do React, you know what you want, so you're biased. Here, I'm not biased, and then when it was UI stuff, I told it, you're world-class iOS app or Mac app designer that knows Swift really well, and then you get better results. Sometimes I ask to gather information when he has to refactor before he does the stuff. Sometimes I just told it, just build it. And I did hundreds of prompts. That didn't save them. In one way, it's good because it's changing so fast, but that could have been a good talk. Yeah, more high level. Like,
I'm always curious about people's workflows with AI agents because
yeah.
this level of complexity where the drops off dramatically, and it really depends like your system prompt, like your agents file, and really the existing code and your architecture as well.
where were you prompting and changing the code? Xcode mostly, or were you
No.
like browser?
No, the browser thing is just a weird accident. It's VS Code mostly, and more recently with Cursor, you can have 3 agents at once. You can ask it, you pick 3 models, you say, how would you implement that? And you can read the answer. And then you just go, you can set up the file structure in Xcode to be virtual. So there's 2 modes, I don't know the names. One is you add the files exactly where they are, and they don't need to match what's on the hard drive. In this one, it's just I change the hard drive, it takes it also. So you can go back from one to the other and just get the workflow. I just cannot navigate in Xcode. But I use Xcode as a test. It's nice to run. And the canvas, you can have multiple previews, and then you can just see the different states without having to go in the application.
Any custom sub-agents to do
No.
different parts or custom slash command, anything like that?
To answer the question about the level of prompting, I say, can you remove the bring your own API key license, add a free tier, then update the pricing table as follows? That was one prompt. So that's super high level. I don't tell it where to look. Yeah. Oh, here. That's how it started. That's funny. I didn't know I had that. I want to build a macOS application in Swift names CanSort AI that allows to rename a folder of PDFs. I gave it the prompt, and then off it went, and had those early images that were an HTML version.
Starting like really high level,
I-
basically, right? Like you're not reviewing the code too much.
No.
Did you make any edits to the code yourself, or was it if something didn't work, you just ask it again, try one more time?
I had to dive in. There's some bugs where it just like, and there's how I found the bugs, and you see there's a pattern where you ask a question, he does something, he tries something, and then he's back at the starting point and doing the same thing. That's when you stop, and I change agent. And when I read Swift at first, there's guards, there's things in there. Just I didn't know what's doing there. When you code enough, I coded in a bunch of languages, I'm there like, yeah, I can make sense. But some of the issues, I had to log a bunch of logs And then I gave it the logs, and I say, there's a bug there. And he's like, then he guides you. You have to be patient. I do that instead of watching TV for a few months in the year, and so I think it's fun. All right. Oh, yeah. Bookmarks and folder authorization for, what's called, when you bring the app to the App Store, you have to respect all their rules. Sandbox. Yeah, that's a fun one, where you can drop a folder, but then it might be inside another folder and up to the parent, and you have to grant the permission. The next time it's going to ask you again unless you do bookmarks. So that was a whole discovery, and again, WDC videos. Yeah.
If you watch, so if you ran into that, solves a problem, you wouldn't watch a DC video, you then go back and prompt and be like, now you know you need to add a bookmark, so you just tell the AI agent to be like, let's add file bookmarks.
Yes, yeah. Because often, most of the model, and things change. There was March, and then there was June, and the world changed. And most didn't know the modern Swift. And they knew like Swift, and where did I come from? So you have to point it to the docs. And when you don't know what to ask, then you just don't know. And that's where looking WWDC, I write down the keywords, then you go back, and then it's, oh, now I get it. So anyhow, my world was rocked.
Did you ever copy the transcript from a video and just paste that in and be like...
Not that one, but yeah, I pointed to code or pointed to a page, and then he reads the transcript for you. Yeah, I was goofing around, and a lot of time was spent with the App Store server library where I just couldn't figure it out. It was interesting. Then it's summer, and I had a bunch of vacation, but in May we went on vacation, and then in June I came back, and I think it was just around when you had the meetup here, announced foundation model. And they're like, shit, all my server stuff, all the months I worked on, which is not full-time. It's just, and they're like, I don't need it. My life went so much better. App review, that was interesting. I used to have that company called AppStore, where I had those two other apps. Now, you see here it says Nouvelle Solutions. That's the right name. And after the first release, the next day I applied to change the name of the company. And then what they do, they shut down all your certificates. They say, you're transferring it. We need to review, approve your application. And that process, I was like, what? Xcode Cloud, that's how it builds and deploys, was just not there anymore. And they're like, what? Yeah, bad timing. I should have done that 10 years ago. But still, if you go look on the App Store, and that was one question I have for you guys. Yeah, it's there. It says AppStore. That's my old name. And I'm there like, that company is long gone. I asked Apple. They didn't come back with that one. Apple Intelligence. I watched some of that video you shared with foundation models. That 2 hours, I watched 5 minutes of the part where it does. I watched it after it was submitted. But here it's slow, but they tell you how you can make it appear faster, because I prompt it and I wait for the response and then I have my JSON. But they have a streaming protocol where you can get results as they come in. So you can update your UI. So while you have the spinner, you can make, oh, this field is loaded, and make an effect. So instead of waiting for one line to move for 4 seconds, you get, so it seems working better. So you have the impression of speeds. You don't have speed, but so that's an interesting part in there. What you were saying, Grant, like main actor, I put a lot of things on main actor when I went to the stricter concurrency and understand concurrency, but I'm just that it works. And when I say I did it, it's my friend Claude. Yeah, the journey matter. What's next? Get feedback. Well, it's practice. Then you have, when I go work, that's when I want to know those things and not figure it out. Yeah. And then I wrote this tool where you can view your slides.
I love that.
So check it out, Markview.app. The project is in, the presentation is in the project. So I say, go visit the Git log, he wrote the timeline, go visit, find important code. And then I couldn't present it because some of those slides, they're not in a slide format, they're a bit longer. So I want something you can scroll up and down. And here's a tool. This one you can, for long pages, you can scroll up and down and then go left and right. And then the new one, where is it? I added create with AI also. So if you want to generate your own slides, you can ask it, generate me a presentation, and it does that. All right, that's it. Questions? With AI, you get a context. And as the context get too big, AI goes crazy and doesn't know because they summarize your own AI. So it's healthy when you feel that the AI doesn't do what you want to start a new context anyhow. So basically you start from scratch. If there's key pieces where they're like, don't forget this one, that's where you can create an agent.md file or different, like Gemini has a Gemini.md file. And I tried all the tools, like in the IDE, on the terminal, all those different providers of AI, they create you some instructions, and that's what you can leverage. If you go in chat for OpenAI, you can have system prompts also you can add. So stuff you want to have across all different services, you just need to move them to a prompt. You add that to your project, and then it's accessible from Xcode and from those. Xcode's AI was just not good. Yeah, was there questions? There was a lot. All right. Thank you, I appreciate it. Let's